Okay, so let's kick things off. If you're working in manufacturing operations, you know the daily grind.
Oh, yeah. Hitting targets, quality checks, juggling resources.
It's nonstop. And let's be honest, you're probably wading through, well, piles of reports, manuals, SOPs. Maybe they're digital, maybe paper.
Uh-huh. Just trying to keep everything running smoothly.
Exactly. And the big challenge isn't really a lack of information, is it? It's trying to find those critical nuggets hidden inside all that stuff and quickly.
That knowledge is definitely there, yeah.
Yeah.
Locked away in the documents you use every day.
But getting at it efficiently, making smart decisions right now based on it, that often feels like the real bottleneck.
It really is.
Right.
Huh.
So our mission for this deep dive then is to really explore this idea from our source material. How those documents you already have sitting around.
Your PDFs, your spreadsheets, shift reports.
Yeah, all of that, how they can actually be turned into powerful tools for making faster, smarter decisions right there on the factory floor. We're pulling out some really practical applications the source describes, stuff you could almost run with.
And what really jumped out at me reading through this was the core idea, tapping into your own data from your own documents
Mm-hmm.
without needing, huge IT projects or complex integrations or APIs. You just upload your files.
And the source really stresses that it's a secure, closed-loop system.
Right.
The answers it gives you come only from the documents you put in, which, helps massively with avoiding those weird AI hallucinations you sometimes hear about.
Or it just kind of makes things up. Yeah, that's key. It sticks to your facts.
Exactly, your reality.
And if you look at the bigger picture,
Mhm.
the overall benefit they're pointing to is pretty concrete. Faster fixes when things go wrong.
Sharper forecasts for planning.
Yeah, and just, tangible wins,
Yeah.
measurable results in your operations.
Okay, so that's the big idea. Let's dive into the specifics. The source actually breaks it down into 7 different ways you can use this, using documents you're probably already generating.
First up, a classic pain point, the shift handover.
Oh, absolutely. Trying to piece together what happened on the last shift.
From scribbled notes, maybe a quick verbal update.
Hoping nothing critical got missed. It can feel like detective work sometimes, can't it?
Totally. And those little gaps, that manual sifting through reports, a key detail gets lost.
Yeah, it's just asking for errors or delays when the next shift clocks in.
Right. So the source suggests tackling this head on. Use AI to basically ingest those end-of-shift documents.
Your shift reports, production data, exports, maintenance tickets, things like that.
Exactly. You just upload them.
Okay, so instead of that manual scramble, the system, generates a summary.
Yeah, a prioritized summary. Key events, issues that came up, tasks that need following up on, all pulled from those docs.
So the next shift gets up to speed instantly on what actually matters most.
Imagine just asking it something like, summarize the critical production issues, quality holds, and outstanding maintenance from the last 24 hours on line 5, based on these reports.
Or maybe checking continuity, like, did last night's packaging report mention any unresolved risks the morning supervisor needs to jump on?
Precisely. And the impact the source talks about is pretty clear. Much better communication between shifts.
Fewer errors from missed info.
Right, and just smoother continuity. Things don't fall through the cracks.
That makes a lot of sense. It's fascinating how just bridging that handover gap better can stop problems further down the line.
It really is. Getting that context, which is often just stuck in someone's head or buried in text, out and actionable immediately.
Okay, what about supporting the operators themselves and maybe spotting those little process drifts earlier? Because waiting for the end of week report, wow, that feels way too late sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, way too slow for real-time quality control. That's another area the source dives into. They talk about using the system to review operator electronic logs, or maybe batch records, after a shift or a batch is done.
Okay.
You upload those documents, and the system can check the parameters logged against your SOPs, your standard operating procedures.
Or against, what was it, golden batch data. That's like your perfect run, right?
Exactly, your benchmark for how things should ideally look.
So the shift here is huge there. Instead of waiting days for a manual review.
You get almost real-time insights, AI-driven feedback on performance or process deviations. For immediate support, immediate quality checks.
Okay, so you could ask it things like, hey, Station 7's temperature log was 10% outside the SOP range last shift. Based on the SOP doc, what guidance should we give?
Exactly. Or maybe spotting training needs, like analyze operator X's cycle times for task Y this past week from their logs. Are there trends suggesting maybe some targeted retraining compared to the SOP target?
Wow. The benefits they list seem really powerful. Fewer operator errors because you catch stuff fast.
Better consistency.
An accelerated learning curve for the team? That's huge.
Yeah, because the feedback is specific and timely and ultimately better product quality.
Speeding up that learning curve, especially for complex stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that puts quality control and support right where the work is happening. That's a big one.
Okay, next up, rework. It happens, right? It's inevitable in manufacturing.
Unfortunately, yes.
But the question is, are you handling it as efficiently as you could be?
Yeah.
Like deciding which batch gets reworked first when you've got several piling up.
And then finding the right technician.
Yeah.
Especially if it needs specific skills, that's a constant juggle.
Yeah, matching defect codes to procedures, then checking skill lists manually. It's cumbersome.
To say the least.
So the source suggests feeding the system things like your daily rework logs, defect code lists, your actual rework procedures, and maybe technician skill matrices.
Okay.
And based on all that, it can help prioritize the rework tasks and even suggest who might be the best fit for a specific job.
So instead of just gut feel or digging through lists.
You get data-driven recommendations for the order of rework and for who has the right skills and is actually available.
So you could ask, like, prioritize these rework batches based on defect type, cosmetic versus functional, customer order impact, and resource availability from the skill matrix.
Exactly. Or for a tricky one, who's available and best qualified for this urgent rework on Order 789? It needs complex electrical diagnosis, according to our skills doc and procedures.
The impact seems pretty direct. Less scrap cost, lower overall rework expense,
Better customer satisfaction if you fix the critical stuff faster.
and just using your skilled people more effectively.
Right. And this links straight to the bottom line, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Think about the hidden costs tied up in rework that isn't prioritized well or isn't done by the best person for the job first time.
Yeah, the source implies this helps bring those hidden costs out into the open. Makes sense.
Okay, how about another silent profit drain? Material waste.
What do you call always a factor?
Do you have a really quick, clear way to see exactly where your biggest losses are coming from?
Often feels like digging through spreadsheets, trying to connect dots.
That's idea number 4 from the source. They suggest analyzing documents like your monthly scrap reports, maybe material input-output sheets.
Okay, so instead of someone manually number crunching across different reports,
You let the system do the heavy lifting. Ask it to pinpoint the biggest waste streams, maybe by cost or by process stage. It might even suggest improvement areas based on what it sees in the data.
wow, okay. Finding hidden waste just by analyzing data you already have. That sounds incredibly powerful.
You could prompt it with something like, analyze the last 3 months of scrap reports. What are the top 5 waste sources by cost, and where are they happening?
Or for yield loss, maybe. Look at the line B material input-output reports for last quarter. Are there big discrepancies suggesting yield problems?
Exactly. And the benefits are pretty straightforward, right? Lower material costs,
Lower disposal costs?
better sustainability, higher process yield overall because you're plugging the leaks.
It's taking that pile of raw numbers and turning it into something you can actually act on, making those invisible costs visible. Yeah, I like that.
Which leads nicely into the 5th point, boosting changeover efficiency.
Critical if you're doing high-mix, low-volume stuff. Those changeovers need to be slick.
Absolutely, every minute counts. But how do you systematically find those extra seconds or minutes you could potentially save?
Usually involves someone with a stopwatch and a clipboard, right? Maybe a SMED event.
That's part of it, but the source suggests going further. Processing things like your SME worksheet, sure, but also historical changeover time data, maybe from CSV files and your changeover SOPs themselves.
Okay, so you're feeding it not just one observation, but history and the documented procedure, too.
Exactly. So it's not just relying on observing a single run. The AI analyzes the data across many changeovers, comparing it to your documented steps.
So it can spot bottlenecks or variability that might not be obvious just watching once or twice.
Precisely. It's seeing how the process actually performs over time, not just how it should work, according to the SOP. That combination is key.
That's really interesting, combining the process docs with the performance data.
Yeah. And you can ask specific things, like using procedure AB and the historical times for packing line 3, switching from product A to B, which 3 steps take the longest on average or have the most variation.
Or, for planning ahead, suggest an optimal task sequence for the CNC Machine 5 changeover, considering tool pre-staging based on the production queue and the SOP.
And the benefits? Well, they're right there. Less changeover time.
More machine uptime.
Exactly. Equipment's running, not sitting idle. And you're more responsive to customer orders because you can switch faster.
Okay, number 6. This one feels like it could impact maybe your biggest operational cost, labor. Proactive planning and training.
Yeah, balancing staffing against demand, dealing with unexpected absenteeism, making sure you have the right skills when you need them.
It feels like a constant high wire act, doesn't it? Trying to be proactive instead of just reacting.
It really does. So the source outlines combining your production plans, what you expect to make, with historical absenteeism data.
Which you probably have somewhere, maybe in a spreadsheet.
Right, likely a CSV.
hmm
And also your current skill matrix, who can do what.
Okay, wait, so instead of just scrambling when someone calls in sick or realizing you need more welders next month, you can actually forecast this stuff.
That's the idea. It shifts staffing from being purely reactive to something more strategic.
Wow, okay. That is a shift.
By analyzing those different data sources together, the system can help anticipate needs. You could ask it, say, forecast October staffing for assembly based on the production plan and historical absenteeism. Flag any potential shortfalls against our current skill matrix.
Or for developing people. Based on upcoming demand and our skill matrix, who are good candidates for cross-training in, say, electrical repair.
Exactly. And the impact they talk about hits efficiency and resilience hard. Optimize labor costs through better planning.
Less overtime, hopefully.
Minimize delays because you saw a skill shortage coming.
And better employee development because you're identifying those cross-training needs proactively.
It's all about getting ahead of the curve with your people by using the data you have on demand, history, and their capabilities.
That makes a ton of sense. Okay, finally, number 7, catching those daily operational anomalies.
Yeah, the small stuff.
Well,
Small deviations that can snowball into big problems
Mhm.
if you don't catch them early.
But how do you realistically track every little drift on every machine every day? It feels impossible for a person to do manually.
You can't. You end up waiting until something's obviously wrong.
Right.
So the source suggests feeding the system daily exports of your key KPIs. Things like hourly throughput, maybe machine error code frequencies.
Okay.
The system then compares today's or yesterday's performance against a baseline, say, the average over the last 30 days, flags anything that looks statistically off.
So you get automated flags for things that are just starting to drift before they become a crisis?
That's the goal. Instead of waiting for throughput to tank or a machine to go down hard, it flags a trend. Maybe error codes are slowly creeping up, or hourly output is consistently dipping below average on one line.
So you could ask, compare yesterday's hourly throughput for line A to its 30-day average. Flag any hours more than, say, 15% below the norm.
Or for maintenance clues, review error codes for Station X last week. Is any specific code trending up significantly compared to its history?
And the benefits here are all about prevention, aren't they? Proactive problem solving.
Reduced incident severity because you catch it early.
Better process stability.
Yeah, keeping things running smoothly and helping you consistently hit those output targets.
And that really makes you think, doesn't it? How much value is there in stopping a small problem before it becomes a big, expensive one?
The source definitely suggests that catching these subtle drifts can drastically cut down on major incidents.
So, okay, that's 7 pretty distinct practical applications we've just walked through, all coming from the source material. And the amazing thing is, they all hinge on using the documents and data you were already generating every single day.
Right. Shift handovers, operator support, rework, waste, changeovers, labor planning, daily anomalies.
It all comes back to those PDFs, CSVs, logs, and reports.
The core promise we saw in the source is really about transforming those routine documents, things you might just see as admin overhead, into dynamic tools.
Tools that unlock real opportunities for breakthrough results.
Yeah, making your existing data work much, much harder for you, straight from the source files themselves.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's maybe a thought to chew on, building on that idea of unlocking value. Imagine all the collective knowledge, all the trends, the insights locked away in every operational document your company has ever created. Every shift report, maintenance log, SOP, batch record, scrap report, everything.
That's a lot of information.
It is. Now imagine you could suddenly unlock all of it. Query it instantly. What would be the single most valuable question you'd ask to fundamentally improve your operations tomorrow?
That's a powerful question to consider. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.